What is going on, guys? Thank you guys so much for coming out. We are fortunate enough to have Mr. Paul Reed-Smith here, so I'm going to have him come on up and lead him to it. Come on up, Paul.
So I understand this thing's being live streamed, right? So that means Facebook Live and people are going to be joining us, and if I say anything wrong, I'll get shot long term. Is that basically what's going on? Wait a minute. We're in an environment now where you can say the wrong thing and it's okay, right? Ooh. I bought something today. I bought this pedal over here. And the reason I bought it is you don't go to the ice cream store without buying an ice cream cone. So it's not okay to come here and not, it's just not, it doesn't work. I mean, you come in here and you come and look around and you leave. If you go home and dream about it and come back, that's cool. But if you go home and you didn't dream about it, I guess that's cool too, but you gotta buy something. It's not okay, it's just not okay. And for me, what I find is that when I travel the world, pretty much you can find what's available for sale that's new. Although he showed me something today that was a pedal made in Tijuana, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's not something stores in Chicago have. Although Chicago Music Exchange did sell 1,000 pedals on Black Friday one year.
Wow.
Whoa. That's a lot of drugs to sell in one day. And if you don't think these people are drug dealers, you're out of your mind. So let me explain this to you. If you're on a couch with a guitar you love, you're in no pain, and when you put it away, there's no hangover. That makes it the best Oxycontin built. And so you don't play guitar. So that's your drug addict right there. Okay.
So I'm the enabler.
I like the way you think, lady. That's really good. You're the enabler. See, in the Facebook Live, we need to put a mic on the room so that people can hear the comments back and forth. Because what she said, that makes me an enabler. I like that. So I'll tell you a story that I adore. You don't play guitar, right? Okay. We're at, and this is on YouTube. You can watch this on YouTube. We're at our experience, and there's about 800 people in the tent. When the tent's full, it's maybe 1,500, 1,800 people. And there's this guy in the side, and he's not real happy. And I said something to him, and he said he had like 30 guitars, but his wife wouldn't let him buy another one. And I'm like, put her on the phone. He goes, okay, and he dials Heather up and hands me the phone. And I said, I understand that your husband wants to buy another guitar, but you won't let him. She says, that's right. If he sells one, he can buy another one. And I said to him, well, look, she says if you sell one, you can buy another one. You've got 30, you can sell one. She goes, what? 30? And I said to this guy, I go, you'll tell 800 people you have 30 guitars, but your wife doesn't know. Oh, I like her way more than I like you, right? So I bought her a plane ticket for her and her daughter the next year. And I brought her to the experience, and I rented a straitjacket. And I put him in the straitjacket and sat him on the stage. And he's like, I said, stop it, you're scaring your daughter, stop it, right? So he starts struggling. And I literally had a straitjacket on him, right? And I said, I'll give you, to her, I'll give you the private stock prototype that he could never own. If you swear to God to me, he can never touch it. At which point, she stared down the pipe for about 45 seconds. And now there's 1,800 people in the tent because it's at night, right? And it's the next year and we got more people there. And, oh God, I love this story. And she finally agrees. And you could see, look, when you have that much experience focused on such a small area, the air starts to crackle a little bit. It gets pretty wiggy, right? And to me, when she agreed to do it, all the women in the audience that didn't play guitar got up and started screaming, yes, 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 right? And we're friends now. We're all friends. I see Hans all the time. But the next time we did the experience, this couple comes up to me, and they're in line to get autographs, and this woman is so mad, she wants me dead. And I said, what's wrong? She goes, he's got 6 guitars, and I never got my wedding ring. French couple, right? And I gave him the number of Zachary's, which is our ring store downtown in Annapolis. I said, go buy a ring. I'm not selling you a guitar. So in the tent that night, I tell the story to everybody in the hopes to bring him up on the stage and embarrass him, right? But he's not in the tent. They've left, which I didn't understand because John McLaughlin played that night, which that didn't make any sense. But they're French. Anyway, so, and he lives in Monaco, so maybe they've seen him play before. So the next day, she walks up, and she goes, I got my ring. And he goes, and I got my guitar. At which point, I decided that I would start telling everybody all the stories about how the drug addict lies to the enabler. All right. So here's the. Oh, no. This is really not good. If you do any of these. By the way, I've had people scream, don't tell her, and these things, right? The first one is all the guitars are black, and he says he has 2. He leaves with the empty case and comes back in with the guitar in the case, and she thinks he just went to band practice. Oh, it gets worse. I love it. He comes home, I bought a guitar, look, I paid $800 for it, and shows the receipt. Neglects to tell her about the $2,300 guitar he traded in. So the saying is, if she sells those guitars for what she thinks I paid for them after I die, I'll come back and kill her. So how many guitars does he have? 18. I have 3. I just got a 3rd one. And I used to have 2, and I lost one. So I'll tell you that story. I take these guitars home, and I show my wife all the time. I said, look, Paige, look how beautiful it is. Paul, I'll take one of the private stocks home, for one of these, that Paul's in charge of building all these private stock guitars. Look how beautiful it is. And I have a pin light in the kitchen. I put it under the pin light. And I brought the one home that was rusted brass color. Remember that one? And she goes, I'll have that. I go, because this one I loved. And I had about 15 seconds to calculate a lot of things. So about 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, I said, okay, you can have it. Now, here's the calculation. Every time I left the house, I was going to have to borrow my wife's guitar. I thought I could deal with that. The second thing was, if I died, I got it back. I thought that was cool. I mean, if she died, I got it back, right? But if I died, she was going to get it anyway, so that seemed okay. And maybe I could build a better one, maybe. Maybe Paul and I could build a better one. So I just calculated the whole thing and went, okay, you can have it. Which just, for whatever reason, she just sees all these people getting guitars and she wanted one, but she never told me. Which I thought was really cool that she finally said, I'll take it. So now I have to borrow my wife's guitar. Now when I take it, I don't even ask her anymore. But she knows it's hers, And I tell this story a lot, and she just beams. She just thinks that's just nothing but good fun. So if you want one of these, how many you got? 18. And if she says she wants one, you're going to give it to her? Yes. All right, so you can have one. I'm just giving you permission to take one now. Yeah. You already said it? As I'll show you which ones you can take and which ones you can't take.
No, I probably want the gold one in the front entry.
She wants the gold one in the front entry. You're not getting that one. All right, so this is being streamed. So let me just try to give a basis for... Oh, God, God, I love it when kids come. I took a young boy, 4 or 5 years old, into my studio and put the guitar in his hands and showed him the collection of dragons that I have in my studio and let him play through the guitar amp and everything. He won't stop pounding his mother for an electric guitar for Christmas. That's me doing my job, yeah. All right, so when I was young, there were probably 10 guitar companies and 10 factories. So I'm 63. So when, in my world, the rite of passage was that your father took you to Washington Music Center and you got to buy your first piece of gear, and I'm sure that was true in almost any town. And now there's probably 22 factories and 350 brands of guitars. So how are you supposed to swim through that? And so one of the things I want to do today is give everybody an idea about how you can find a guitar that's a magic guitar long term. The firemen in our town came to me and they said, listen, more and more and more, when the people are out and the animals are out and they're safe, people are screaming for their PRSs, not the photographs. And that day I felt better that we were doing a good job. That felt like I was doing my job. We were making heirlooms, right? And really, these private stocks that you're building, Paul, they are heirlooms. Tina, what you guys are selling are heirlooms, right? And I think that that's important, but how do you sift through that there's 350 brands and you don't even know what factory they were made in? You have no idea. They don't really tell you. One of the things we started doing with our SEs is writing where they were made on the back of the headstock, and literally someone in our industry screamed at me for a half an hour telling me what a huge mistake that was. And my point was I wanted these people in that factory to be proud of what they were doing and sign it. I didn't want it to be hidden by, some non-understanding of what was going on. So this is the way I think you should buy guitars. Now, this store does a huge amount of business on the internet, correct? So you're going to have to do this theory somewhat through the internet, but this is basically it. You should buy guitars the way women buy shoes.
Sporadically?
I don't know what marriage you're in, man.
A great one!
You said sporadically? Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. All right, so his answer was sporadically. All right, so the way women buy shoes, in my experience, is bring me 10 pairs and get away from me, and I'll tell you which pair I want. It's the same thing with guitars. Bring me a bunch of guitars, let me play them, and if you don't love one of them, don't buy it. Just don't buy it. So here's the deal. If you don't really understand how good the guitar is, you can feel how it feels in your hand. You can feel if it's comfortable weight-wise. You can do all that. But in order to how good it's going to sound, you can plug into an amp and you can get an idea of that. But you don't know what it's going to sound like in your studio. You don't know what it's going to sound like live. You don't know. But if you get out a stopwatch, you can find out pretty quickly how good the guitar is. So imagine all the same strings on all the guitars. A guitar that rings for 10 seconds is not as good as a guitar that rings for 45 seconds, period. Same strings, one of them's being shut down in 10 seconds and the other one's not being shut down for 45. Okay? A string at its very, very, very best goes for about a minute, right, Paul? That one time we timed one in Japan for a minute. And we knew we were on to something because this thing was ringing for so long, all right? So why is that? Well, if you can put tuning pegs made out of rubber and a nut made out of rubber and a bridge made out of rubber, you're going to admit it's going to ring for 10 seconds or less, right? Therefore, the parts on the guitar are having an impact on how long the string is ringing. If the water in the wood is still there and the wood's pretty wet, it's going to have an impact. If the finish is really soft, it's going to have impact. If the nut is made out of the same thing you hook your toilet to your septic tank with, which is PVC plastic, which is now becoming industry standard. It used to be bone. That's going to have an impact. And really with a stopwatch, you get an idea of what that is. And I brought a guitar and I'll plug it in and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And that's a really good indication of whether or not it's a good guitar. The other thing you can do is you can ask an expert. Somebody who's an expert is somebody in a very complicated area that's solving very complicated problems over and over and over again. That's by definition what an expert is. This store is full of experts. Ask him, he knows what he's talking about. I do. Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you what, man, saying no to you when you're trying to sell a pedal, which I did twice, it was not fun. I don't really need that. It was not something I wanted to say to you, right? But the truth is that's part of what a destination store is, which is what Pitbull's trying to do here, trying to have a destination store where people come and try things, right? And we started selling guitars on the internet pretty much almost before anybody else, because people trusted when they bought a McCarty that the neck shape would be right. They trusted that it would sound good. They would trust it would play good, and they just wanted one that was the right color. And I didn't like that very much. I wanted them to experience how it sounded, experience how it played, this, that, and the other. But they were like, nah, Paul, we trust you around that one. I just want to get the right color. And I've seen people say to me, I have this blue one. I absolutely adore how it sounds. I adore the way it plays. I want a red one. I'm like, are you out of your mind? But 80% of information is brought in with people's eyeballs, and so it's important to them, right? So let me show you the sustain thing, okay? It's like the Energizer Buddy. Bunny? Is that what you call it? It's still going. Hasn't stopped yet. Still going. It just stopped. That's not bad. That's pretty good. And what I want is for people to trust their experience. So if you can't figure out what's going on with 350 guitar companies and 12 factories, trust your experience that it's incredibly powerful and will tell you the truth. If the guitar is sucking energy away from you, it's not something you want. If this guitar is giving the energy back to you, it's something you want. And I'm sorry, no matter what pedal you buy, it ain't gonna fix this problem. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, good. Look, right now the guitar is more of a synthesizer controller than it is a guitar. They're using these pedals as synth modules. And Hendrix started with his wah-wah pedals and his Octavias and his fuzz faces and his wah-wahs and univibes and all that, which is fine. But I'm sorry, when he turned them all off, it still sounded unbelievable, right? So I don't know. I just think it's really important that people have an idea that they can trust their experience. And I've done this in audiences where you take somebody who's never played guitar and play them 4 acoustics, and the person can tell sitting in front which is the best guitar. Easy. It's easy. It's not hard. And I used to do shootouts where we would get other brands of guitars and we would shoot them out against each other. I don't really want to do that today for a variety of Facebook Live reasons. But I can tell you, you should do that. And it becomes deeply obvious what the differences are. And you should trust your experience. Now, when you get a guitar on the internet and it comes to the door, if you don't love it, do they have a right to send it back?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's the same thing. My wife, God, this is just unbelievable. There's a store down the street, big store, starts with an N, sells dresses. She could have gone down and tried them all. She ordered all 6 of them, tried them on in her bedroom, and sent 5 of them back. I'm like, oh my God. And that's going on more and more and more and more and more. I've seen people do all their Christmas shopping from their computer. I mean, things have changed. Things have really, really changed. But fundamental guitar making, fundamental amp building, fundamental speaker building, fundamental pedal building hasn't changed, although it is progressing really quickly. And you showed me some things today that I didn't know about the progression of pedals, right? Which is very cool. So that said, I wanted to open the floor to questions, and let me explain why. You all came here with questions. I can get on my soapbox and yap for an hour and a half, and I'm not going to hit your question, or I might. It's much better if you do. And when I throw myself to the wind and say, please ask questions, we end up covering all the subjects I'd do it anyway, and then it becomes an interactive conversation. But I'm going to warn you, if you ask a question, you're a target. Because I've had those phone calls where you get where they say, I got bad news for you, Paul. And so when I'm having a good time, I'm goofing off and playing around all the time. So why doesn't somebody take a big risk and ask a question? Now, I'll tell you what. 2 questions I got that stick out in my head. One was a guy stood up in the middle of a crowd in L.A. and said, why are PRS guitars sissy guitars? And well, the reason he said it, he says, listen, I go to war. When I'm gone, I want the guitar to fight me. I want high action. I want it to be struggles. I said, you're killing me for having the frets level. You're killing me for having the neck to feel right. The frets aren't sticking out the side of the neck. And we had this big argument. I said, why don't you just change to 11s instead of 10s? You know, why don't you raise the action a little bit? Oh, we went at it. It was good fun. Yeah. The other guy stood up in the middle of the back, right where the guy with the hat is in the back, stood right about there, and he goes, Paul, you've been talking about 57 Strats, you've been talking about 59 Les Pauls, you've been talking about the history of our business. We don't know we've never played a 57 Strat. We've never played a 59 Les Paul. We think they're reissues. And I went, oh no. I've spent my entire career studying all these old guitars and holding them and understanding what these gentlemen that made these instruments and these women that made these instruments understood. And they haven't been going to these vintage shows and trying them, but they were hanging on the wall behind me at the clinic. I said, you can play the ones that are sitting on the wall behind me, right? And David, who owns the store, he goes, no. In other words, and then they said, okay, hotshot, get out a stopwatch. And they pulled out a 57 Strat, a 59 Les Paul, and my guitar, and they started timing them with the stopwatch on their phones. And then they started timing new guitars. And it was unbelievable what happened in the room. It scared me to death because I hadn't done the test beforehand. The 57 Strat rang for 48 seconds. My PRS that I brought rang for 48 seconds. The old Les Paul rang for like 42 seconds. The other ones are ringing 16 and 17 seconds each. And it proved the point, but oh my God, they said, all right, let's test your theories. And I think that those kind of questions evoke real understanding. I think people learn much more in an argument than they do in somebody just standing on a soapbox yapping. So why doesn't somebody take a risk and ask a question, and we'll go for it? And I'm going to have to repeat the questions into the mic, right?
You've got a mic.
All right, so somebody, all right, right here. Hang on a minute. You're going to get to talk on Facebook Live into the microphone.
Where we at? How,
Hold on a minute.
Sorry.
So how will a $500 PRS sustain compared to a $5,000 or $10,000 PRS?
I've never done the test, but I think about 2/3 of the time, almost as long. And look, I know how all these guitars are made. We've taken all our competitors' guitars apart. We know what they use to glue a lot of nuts on guitars. They don't even glue them on anymore. I mean, almost nothing of the nut is touching the wood. It's like bridged. You've got to fill all the gaps in. I know if we're gluing the nuts on well on SE guitars because I break them off. I know we're gluing the frets in. I know how we're drying the wood. I know how we're finishing them. I know how the bridges are made. So since I haven't done it, but I know exactly what I would do to make it longer if I had to. But I would say that we would survive that test beautifully. To answer your question as frankly as I can, that's a scary question. But I answered it honestly. By the way, when people lie in front of a crowd, you ever notice everybody just kind of goes like this? And when you tell the truth to a crowd, they all go like that? You ever notice that? Yeah, well, you were nodding. That's good. All right. Somebody else has a question. See? Yes, sir. The answer's no. Next. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mine's more of an idea than a question.
You're
but the
louder
question,
than he is.
Yeah. The question will come at the end. The way guitars are designed now, with the high E string, you can bend it up, of course, but you can't really do like a proper vibrato because you run out of fretboard at the bottom there underneath. If you designed a guitar that had a little bit more space underneath the E string, you could get like a wide vibrato and you could like create sounds that people couldn't recreate unless they had the same guitar. Have you ever thought of that, or?
Sir, come here. Is that enough room?
That is nicer. Nicer than most, yes. But I would like it just a little bit more.
I'm not running off the side.
That's nice.
I'm not running off the side.
Well, that's a well-made
Now,
guitar.
hang on a minute. Tina can order you a private stock right now, but we'll make the fretboard 3/30 seconds wider all the way down with the same string spacing, and you will never come off, and you'll have a one-off prototype, and she'll take your credit card right now. I mean, this thing about the strings falling off the neck is a real concern.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that early Fenders had this problem, I mean, people learned that they had to almost bend the high E up a little bit before they wiggled it. Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to get into the thing about you can't play solos on a 7 1/4 inch radius. I thought you were going to get into that argument. God, that one made me crazy. I thought Sultans of Swing sounded fine. I thought Machine Gun was good. I didn't think it was a problem. But the internet told us about how to make guitars, which I find stunning. Yes, sir. Can we get a mic in the back? Wait a minute. Did I answer your question? Yeah. That's good. You can order it today. Don't worry about it. Go on.
All right. Since you brought up the Silver Sky,
yeah.
I have a Silver Sky question. So it feels like, or it looks like on the internet, you had a lot of success with the Silver Sky. So the question is, are you going to do other variations of that model, or are you going to do any type of other, maybe a fixed bridge, tele type model, or kind of go into that area, or is that sort of the end of the?
Okay, so you want to be my new marketing department? Is that what you just said?
I'm not telling you what to do.
No. Let's go down. I told you everybody asks the questions at Target. So just hold on a minute.
I've got 2 Silver Skies, and I'm just curious because
Okay, so what you're asking is, are you going to be coming out with a maple fretboard Silver Sky? Are you going to be coming out with new colors? Are you going to make a telly? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that?
HSH?
I can't tell you that. The internet has ruined everything. I used to be able to talk in Dallas. It stayed in Dallas. If I talk in Dallas now, the people know what shirt I wore in Germany as I'm talking. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Howard Leese was with me at Rainbow Guitars in Tucson, Arizona, and as he walked out of the store, his text said, "Nice shirt, Howard," and the guy was from Germany. Swear to God. Somebody was filming from underneath the chair. Like the guy in the back over here filming. Somebody was over here filming. I can't tell you because then I haven't told my German rep, I haven't told my Italian rep, I haven't told my Japanese reps, I haven't told the English people, I haven't told the rep that I have here. And I would be telling you ahead of everybody what all our plans are. I can't do it anymore. The internet has put me in a straitjacket, and I can't do it. I used to quietly be able to tell people what we were planning on doing. Those days are over. When John Mayer announced the Silver Sky, he was getting 1,000 likes a minute, not views. 1,000 likes a minute, 60,000 likes an hour. It shut our computer systems down. It shut our internet down. It shut us completely down, and we were giggling. The internet's changed everything to the fact that this store is, you can find it world famous in seconds. So I can't tell you. I want to tell you. But then I'd have to kill you. It's not going to work. I mean, you're asking really grounded, good questions. What are your long-term plans with John Mayer? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that the conversations I'm having with Carlos Santana or David Grissom or Jimmy Herring or John Mayer or Mark Holcomb or Mark Tremonti are intense, grounded, good decisions about what we're going to do long term. Now, that MT-15 that Mark designed with Doug Sewell is a professional piece of gear in a toy market. It is one hell of an amplifier. And he used it for a whole record before he would allow us to release it. But we didn't tell anybody. Sometimes these artists leak the news out just to make sure their stuff's going to sell long term. But that's for them to do, not for me to do. Now, I'm not sure you like my answer, but I did answer your question, didn't I? See, now hang on a minute. There's a question right here, and there's a question right here. Let me see. When you throw yourself to the wind and all these things, it's of interest to the whole room. It's not just, it's almost like the people asking the questions are asking it for the whole room, right? And it gives me a chance to attack people and be a comedian and do all kinds of wrong things. So I'm warning you, go.
Good evening.
Wow. Wow, that was good.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. Good evening. That's great.
All right, so I imagine you're surrounded by so much gear, you probably lose your marbles pretty much on a daily basis.
Gear?
Gear, guitars, everything.
Lose my marbles?
Sure, I don't know.
You're
It's a
guessing
figure of
wildly.
speech.
You're
Yes,
guessing
I am.
wildly. Lose my marbles?
know.
If I lose my marbles, well, all bosses are supposed to be out of their minds, right? Isn't that right, Paul? Yes. All right. So, how many knives do you think are in my back at the bar after work?
16.
Yeah, 16. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, so go on. I like good gear. I really like nice things.
Yes.
I bought something today. Pay for something today. It would be in your best interest.
Yes.
Go on.
So,
That was a no. Did you hear him say no? Yeah, go on.
We'll try again.
All right, we'll try again. All right, go on.
yes, come on. Work with me.
If this ain't working with you, I don't know what is.
Anyway, as far as the last year, what has been the greatest piece of equipment, gear, guitar related, not guitar related, that you purchased that's been under $100?
Go.
I'm here for as long as you.
You really want to know the answer? I have an answer to the question.
Sure.
We found Greg Irwin, who plays in a band called Magnolia Boulevard, for under $100, found a Coricidin bottle, which is what Dwayne Allman used to play slide on, with the pills in it, with the label on it, for under $100. I emptied the pills into the trash can. I soaked the bottle and got the label off, and it's sitting in my studio. And it cost me considerably less than $100 because Greg paid for it. Hang on a minute. I was given a real Coricidin bottle that Dwayne Allman had given to a guy named Dennis Robbins. Dennis Robbins played in the Rockets. The Rockets were Jim McCarty, the great Jim McCarty played in the Rockets, and it was the other guitar player. He gave me his Coricidin bottle. This is the glass slide that, started the whole thing, right?
That's awesome.
Hang on a minute. Derek Trucks was in my studio, and I gave it to him as a present. I said, this was Dwayne's Coricidin bottle. The other day, I saw Dennis Robbins in Nashville, and I said, when you come to my house, I have a brand new Coricidin bottle for you that had the pills in it and everything, and I'm going to return the favor and give it back. Because I don't play slide, but for him, it's a huge deal. Now, for about $100, you can find a brown one on eBay. Now, nobody's even seen a brown Coricidin bottle, okay? The best thing you can do for under $100 is get a really good guitar teacher to give you a lesson. And let me explain why I say that. They did a thing in Guitar Player magazine, 100 best ways to get a good tone. And my friend Ralph Perucci went berserk when he read it. I said, what's wrong, Ralph? He goes, they didn't say take a lesson. And I called the editor of Guitar Player, and I said, you forgot to say take a lesson. And Melinda says to me, he goes, yeah, you're right, we forgot that one. If Eric Clapton is playing no matter through what amp, what guitar, it sounds like Eric. Carlos Santana is playing through no matter what amp, what guitar, it sounds like Carlos. And I'm sorry, Derek Trucks, no matter what he's going to pick up, is going to sound like Derek. And Jimmy Herring's going to sound like Jimmy Herring. So there's a huge amount available for $100. In My Time of Dying was played on a Sears Silvertone guitar that was made out of fiberboard with these lipstick pickups in it. I'm sorry, I saw Page play it on the Outrider tour, and that guitar cost less than $100 when it was made. Now, his guitar that played In My Time of Dying, it would probably go on Sotheby's for some outrageous amount of money. So that ain't $100. But there are things to be found for less than $100 that will do the job. There's an industry standard pair of headphones called Audio-Technica M50s. Everybody uses them. You can find them on eBay for less than $100. And if you listen to Eric Clapton sing No Tears in Heaven on the Unplugged, he was using an SM58, which you can get for less than $100. I'll sell you $100 stuff all day long, no problem. You're right. There should be stuff available at that price, but there's also, you're not going to get a private stock guitar for $100. I'm sorry, the bridge cost us more than that.
And that's not, I mean, the point of me even bringing
You have to talk in the mic. We're a Facebook Live. Hold on a minute.
And I bring that question up not because I'm like, hey, like, I want a guitar
I
for...
answered your question.
You did. I can move on.
No, we're good. Keep going.
Okay. Just by the looks of it, it's not a matter of, oh, I just want like a $100 guitar. It's just, I feel like we're in an industry now, like you said, there's thousands of factories in hundreds of countries.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to throw out, well, buy an Axe Effects or buy this pedal or buy a Katana. Oh, this new Katana Mark II is great. Well, or now there's a guitar that has a synth, or you can put it through MIDI.
That's exactly, you're making the point I started with. And I'm saying, sit in the corner and try them yourself and make your own decision. That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
Right.
You're going to, believe me, if everybody on the internet has 25 years experience, including the guy in Waco, Texas, who's 14 years old in the basement in his underwear. Mm-hmm. And somebody said he's not wearing his underwear, Paul. Look, what I'm saying is that you're right. Sifting through it's really difficult. And the point I'm making is trust your own experience and try the Katana or whatever the product was that you said. Please try it.
Yeah.
And you're making my point for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, you are now done. You can hand the mic to him.
Aye, sir.
All right, good. Tina,
you.
Is that Coke? Is that Coke? It's behind the amp. It's just behind the amp. Ah, there it is. I need caffeine for this. Go on.
Is there or will there be a left-handed SE245? Because I can put you in touch with a guy that'll buy one of them at least.
Yes. Do we make SE left-handed SEs?
Single cut.
No, we do. We make a custom 24 left-handed. But if you only had it as a single cut 245, then I would take it. Oh, you're going to drive me crazy. So let's go down this road. I got to carve the neck backwards. I got to put the side dots backwards. I got to put, the pickups I actually don't have to put in backwards, but the bridge has to be backwards, the case has to be backwards, the body's got to be backwards. Everything's got to be backwards, and we do it really, really well. And the market, I was told, was 5% of the people. Left-handed market's less than 1 in 200 people. And every time we do it, we lose money, but we try to take care of people who play left-handed. Now, they don't make left-handed pianos, so I don't really understand. I know they do. I figured that out. Somebody said, oh, yes, they do. You're right. They do make left-handed pianos. What's wrong with the ones we make?
Well, I can't turn a single cut upside down and play it.
Yeah, but
Well, I
we
could,
make a
but I
custom
would-
24 upside down.
Oh, I have 2 custom 24s already.
Are they left-handed?
No, they're left-handed.
Okay, so oh boy, that's really interesting. You put your money where your mouth is. You've already got 2 of them, and you want a single cut now.
Yes.
Can you make him a left-handed single cut in private stock? Right there.
Private stock. Okay, there's an issue of affordability.
No, the SE in private stock. Okay, I'm getting this one. Okay.
Yeah.
The answer is right now we don't have plans on it. Now I'm going to be very direct. The first request I've heard for a single cut left hand ever in my life is from you, sir.
Really?
I've never had one. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. I request things of my employees all the time that they've never heard before and want me dead for. But I'm trying to do my job. I will mention it to the person in charge of SEs. I promise you, you have my word.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a conundrum. Is that the right word? Because we have to be profitable. If I'm not, if I do all this tooling for a single cut,
Right.
and I don't sell that many of them, I'm going to lose money. And for us to tool up a guitar costs what, north of $100,000, Paul, something like that. So I got to make $100,000 in profit to be even start to make them. And we did it for the custom 24s. This conversation is not going to end well because because I'm not saying yes, but I am acknowledging your request, and I'm telling you I'll take it back to the person who's in charge.
Well,
You have my word. What's your name?
Randall.
Randall, I promise you I will tell Jack.
Yeah.
He even
Well-
has this entity has a name, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate it. The way I got to 24s, the custom 24s, is my buddy's got about 13 PRSs, and he would drive up and show me every one he bought. I had to wait until those left-handed ones, the ones that I could afford.
So your buddy pissed you off properly.
Yeah, every day.
That's great.
Yeah, he was at the top of the need to whip your butt list, man.
Yeah.
So just because he showed me you had
Look
the
what
ones
I
with
got that you can't
Yeah.
have. That's just mean.
So when they finally came out, I traded a few guitars just to get one, and then I saw another one
Well, that's
secondhand, and I
sweet.
bought it. So apparently, I'll just have to wait until I can hit it big and can afford to have my own single cut
I
left-handed
feel like a
PRS
heel.
made.
I feel like a heel right this second.
Yeah,
you know
that's
something?
But thanks anyway.
There's a
at least
lot of things that are. Thanks for nothing, Paul. All right. The truth is, a lot of people skimp. And let me tell you where they skimp on left-handed guitars. They don't make the pots have the backwards taper. They don't put the numbers backwards on the knobs. There's a lot of things they don't do that make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Hendrix would have just drilled a hole on the other side and played it. You knew that, right?
Yeah, but Hendrix's fingers were about this much more longer than mine, so he could reach them upper frets and do them bends on the E string. Both these strings.
Wow, this is not going to end well.
You know, someone, is there anybody else in here that plays guitar left-handed? See, somebody has to strike a blow for us leftists, man.
He's 1 in 200.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't think I've made a dime on all the left-handed guitars we made. I did it to take care of people like you, and I think it did a pretty good job, but it was only in a single cut. Then I'd be happy.
Well, no,
This happened to me with the Paisos. We did the Paizo on the hollow bodies, and they said, well, if you only did it on the other hollow body, and we did it on that, and they said, well, if you only put it on a custom 22, and we did it on that, it was only on the 24. It's like Stone Soup. You ever read that book, Stone Soup, when you were a kid? If we only had a little meat, if we only... I swear to God, when it was all over, the guy that was complaining on the internet never did buy one. We put Paisos on everything.
yeah.
Now, I'm complaining, but and complaining is a bad magnet. It's just not good. But I can tell you it was probably a good decision to put a Park Paizo system on all those guitars. But I don't know if it's a good financial decision to do what you're doing, and you're getting into my underwear around managing my company. And I don't know if it's a good idea, but I've made you a real promise. I will tell Jack, and I've got employees in here that are as dedicated to the company as I am, and they're going to make sure I do exactly what I said I'd do. Because the worst thing in the world is to have a boss that says he's going to do something and not do it. It's not good.
Right.
So, Randall, you're going to give that mic up, and we're going to be done. All right. Yes, there's a guy behind you, and there's a guy in the back.
Thank you. I have a couple of PRSs, and
my favorite is the '98 CE24.
Yeah.
I think it's got a wide, fat neck on it.
It's got a wide, thin neck on it.
wide, thin.
Yes.
Does that neck show up in the new models?
Uh-huh.
It does. I can still get the same neck.
Uh-huh.
Bitchin'.
Oh, wait, no. We're going to go deeper. Whoa, don't, no. Come on. No, we're not done yet. Do we have one in stock in this store? We have a CE24? Look on the computer.
Yeah. Two right there.
We got tons, probably some on the wall even.
Point it out right now.
I understand.
Which one? Where?
On the right.
Yeah, right there next to the Silver Sky. To your right, Paul. To the right. And that cherry burst.
Sold.
Come on up. You got to talk on the mic because it's not fair.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name's Daryl.
Daryl Paul. That's the next shape you're asking about. Does that feel like your guitar?
I think it does.
I think it does.
I think
It's pretty close.
dude, this is really nice.
Good. You got a credit card. You can take it home today.
You know, that's possible. What kind of a arrangement can we do?
If they don't give you a discount after this conversation, I should be shot. This man right here can help you.
Does this have a piezo?
No. You just won that argument. That was unbelievable. Does it have a piezo? No. We don't do CUs. Do we do CUs and piezo, Jim? If it only had a piezo. Oh, you just did it to me.
Only with
It's a nice guitar.
This is beautiful. What do I do with it?
Take it home with you. All right. All right. There was somebody in the back over here. Yeah, he's going to put it back on the wall. I know. There was somebody in the back. See, isn't it more fun to make it interactive? Isn't that more fun?
Evening, Paul.
Evening. You're not going to ask me if PRS guitars are sissy guitars, are you?
No.
Because you look just like the guy that asked me that.
Well, I'm glad to tell you then that I'm going to ask you a much more positive question.
No, that was a positive question because it immediately enrolled the entire room and got me a format to do what I wanted to do that night. So go on.
All right. I'm not really sure how to word this question, so it might come off a little bit convoluted. Often when guitar players are talking about like what really makes a good guitar, they often talk about like they have like that one guitar that just has the mojo, that they always go back to, despite if they have, just regardless of how many other guitars they have.
That's
now,
normal. That's normal.
Yeah. But you as a builder, when you first started building and all the way up till today, have you tried to make every guitar that comes out of the factory just have that mojo or God, how do I, like I said, I don't really know how to word this.
First of all, it's a brilliant question, so let me really answer it, okay?
Yeah.
You cannot pay people to love their work. You can pay people to stand there and do what you've taught them to do. But the truth is, you can't make a beautiful guitar without loving it.
That's true.
And you can't do it. You can't have that kind of attention to detail without loving it. And so many times I have thanked my employees that even though I can't request that they do anyway, okay? And it's not so easy. You put 350 people in a room and all kinds of crazy stuff goes on. I mean, they start getting married, all kinds of crazy things. But that said, you can't do that. And when the combination of parts has a magic guitar, very often that guitar will find a home. Now, we had a model called an NF3, and we couldn't sell them. We got Guitar of the Year from all the magazines for it, but nobody would buy them. I don't know if you remember this, but we had NF3s. Jimmy Herring got his hands on one, and now you can't find one, okay? It was magic, but nobody knew it, right? And it takes an artist to try to find a tool to do its job, to do their job. So the truth is, you can't require it, but you can do everything in your power to make it possible. So if you glue the nut on well, if you glue the frets in well, if you level the neck right, you carve the neck well, you have the finish be the right thickness and hardness, you make sure that the frets don't stick out of the side of the neck, you've glued the fretboard on well, you're making sure the tuning pegs aren't slipping, you're making sure the nut's not grabbing the strings, you make sure that the bridge is staying in tune, you make sure that it'll intonate, you make sure that the pickups don't squeal when you turn them up really loud, you make sure, then you have a chance at the internet going, well, it's got mojo. And the truth is, very, very often, we get lambasted for having the thing sound really even top to bottom. Now, at the highest level, when you've got a David Grissom or a John McLaughlin, they want it to be even from top to bottom. They don't want the high E string to go ee, and the low one to go blah, blah, blah. They want it to go da 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 da. They want it okay? And I know that in the end, that's what these artists want. The great John McLaughlin told me 30 years ago, one day, son, you'll be good enough to make me a guitar. And then 25 years ago, he called and said, one day, and 20 years ago, and 15 years ago, and 10, and 5, and one day, I showed him what we called a violin guitar, which is very close to this guitar that I brought here, and he goes, oh, no. I said, John, you're going to finally order a guitar? And he goes, yeah. And he told me everything he wanted, and every time I sent him a picture, he waved it off, and Paul had to make another guitar 3 times that year, remember? And finally, he comes to Frankfurt, and the guitar is in the booth. And he goes, where's Paul? And they said, well, he's off at the MIPO Awards with a bunch of other musicians. And he said, do you want to play the guitar? And John said, I'm not opening this case without Paul here. And he put it over his back and huff off to come find me. He's standing in front of me. And David Grissom, the great guitar player from Texas, goes, couldn't believe John McLaughlin was standing there. And John took the guitar out of the case after waving off 30 years of guitars and 2 other guitars and pulls it out and it goes, oh no, I love it. We were in tears that night at dinner, not because John loved the guitar, but because the man had told us what the future was going to be for 30 years, and we had a real Jedi Knight on our hands, somebody who knew what the future was, which was extraordinary. I don't know what mojo is. Mojo's if you dig it. Now, when David went to Texas, they said, you ain't nothing unless you play a Strat. And that was the day he decided he was never going to play a Strat. So, and recently he's been playing them again, but that's a whole nother thing. So, do you have a guitar that stands out above the rest of them?
I do. I guess the whole, I don't know, it was just kind of...
It's a really decent question. Yeah. Go on.
Okay, I guess that leads me to the second part of my question.
Did we say he could have 2 questions?
I said I could.
No. Go on.
I mean, I guess above mojo, have you always just tried to make guitars that you really want to play more than like any of the other brands around?
The short answer is maybe yes. Let me explain. I've always said if another guitar maker brought me a guitar that I liked better than my own, I'd play it. It's true. Paul Miles has made me a guitar that's sitting on his wall, and I have bugged him every single day for, 7 months now? Give or take. I'm going to get that thing out of him. And I hope I love it, but I don't know what my experience is going to be. I have no idea. It certainly has all the makings of an extraordinary instrument. I don't know. Yeah, look, I'm trying to please the guitar player in me, but in the end, I'm trying to make sure that if an artist has a boat of guitars, the one he goes for is ours when the lights go out. Don't think these human beings aren't frightened when the lights go out. Don't think they're not nervous. Don't think they are. They're human beings. They just got a lot of courage, and they made it to this position to play for 15,000 people that night. Okay, give them the nod. But they're going to pick up the guitar that's going to do the job the best for them. Some people play the same guitar all night, and some people change every tune. I'm not one of those change every tune people. I do a shootout before at sound check, pick the best guitar for the night, and done with it. So, yes, the answer to your question on the short order is yes. But look, when I met Peter Frampton a long, long time ago, I got a chance to make him a guitar. I said, can I play all your guitars? So, yeah, I played all his guitars, and I understood what he liked in all these different brands, and I tried to build him something in the middle that he would like more. It's the same thing. If I play somebody's all their guitars, I try to make them something that they like more. And I think that the Mojo question is kind of the, last-ditch effort to bury our guitars. But so many gifted guitar players are using the stuff. There are gifted guitar players using our stuff that you don't know about. They're using them in the studio, but they're under contract. They can't play them live. So that's a whole other thing. We don't do that to our artists. Artists can play anything they want. If John Mayer wants to pull something else, he does. If Carlos wants to pull something else out, he does. If Mark Tremonti, you name it. We don't do that in our contracts. That said, that guitar sounds good. You want me to play it for you so you can hear what it sounds like?
Yes, that would be nice. Thank you, by the way.
And that's a humbucker. That's not a single coil. That's the lead channel turned down. Up. Is that Mojo? Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby. Is that Mojo? I don't know. I don't know what the definition of Mojo is. Did I answer your question? Yeah. All right, good. Thank you. Tina and Paul, can you come up for a minute? So everybody, this is Tina Sears and Paul Miles. And Tina does sales for private stock, and Paul's in charge of our entire private stock program. You have artists and dealers and customers come to this place called The Vault constantly. And I want you to both, if you could tell the story of what happens when somebody comes to The Vault. But I'm going to start the story, and you have to get fairly close to the mic because it's live. The problem is, in 2009, we ran out of orders. And we'd been hiding wood for 25 years, and that we would save for a rainy day, and it rained. And we built something called a wood library where people can pick out their top and pick out their neck and pick out their fretboard and pick out the back and build guitars. And for me, it saved our company, but it just isn't going to stop. People come and literally start building a guitar with Tina and Paul. And if you could tell the story, maybe Tina, you could start, and Paul, you could finish. It'd be great. I don't really know, but it's fascinating when these people are coming and building guitars in our vault, right? So how does it work, Tina?
Well, basically, you would come with a dealer, and they come in and it starts with an idea. You either know what model you want, or maybe you just know what kind of woods you want to look for, and then we walk you around and start the process of pulling out the woods and squirting them down with water, which really brings all the woods to life. And then we talk about like what kind of sounds you want to get, what kind of tones you want to get. We pick out all the right woods, and then you sit down and you basically build your dream guitar step by step with Paul and I.
What she said. But really, I mean, like Brian would know. I mean, he's been there a bunch of times doing that, and it's it's kind of a unique experience, especially with the crew that we have there.
So do you have one of the guitars here that you guys picked out?
No, we can never keep them in stock for that long.
What he said for the people on Facebook Live is they can't keep them in stock that long. You don't have one Wood Library guitar here that's close?
Library, yeah,
Right,
that's
so,
a
so
private
it's the
stock.
same. All right, so there are two vaults.
That satin
Can you go grab? Can we grab it and you bring it up?
You just want a wood library one?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Something.
That's It's locked up.
So for the people on Facebook Live, they had to get the key to get it out.
That's all right. It's just a deal.
Come on up. Come on up.
Those are both very different examples of what we can do. I'll let you guys do the talking about it.
So they picked out this top, and they picked out this fretboard, and they picked out this neck. And it's the same thing with this one, right, Paul?
Correct.
That's a artist package top 10.
Yeah.
So this is one step below private stock. These are artist
Yeah.
packs.
Yeah.
But it's the same process where they picked out the top and then made the guitar. The thing that's fascinating about it for you guys is you said, I picked this out for you, and it's not a lie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you picked it out, right. So why is it still in stock?
Those we just got in fairly recently.
Yeah, like yesterday, yeah, I know.
That's a private stock.
Oh, there you go. That's
Yep.
perfect here. Talk about this.
This is one of our hollow body 594s.
Plug that bad boy in.
And I'll walk it around. Can you tell
Yep.
them what this?
It was-
The thing about this that drives me crazy, it's got two tops on it.
That was one of our limited runs when we did the hollow body 594.
See the curly mahogany neck? Oh, this got curly mahogany neck on it.
Yes, that's what we do.
That line never gets old, does it, Paul?
It doesn't.
No,
Nope.
it never gets old. Smell it.
Is that number 19?
What do you do to recognize the neck?
Look at the curl. See the curl?
Okay, now I see that. Yeah. You change the light, you can see it.
Yeah, does it have piezo?
No piezo. But I can put a piezo on it for you. I'll put a piezo on that CE.
So let me ask a question. Tina, how long have you been working at PRS? Nice and loud, so you come over here, grab the mic and come talk. How long?
23 years.
And how long have you been at PRS, Paul?
28.
Okay.
Paul, you want me to take that guitar back, or are you going to keep all of them?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah,
Like that?
you knew that was coming, right? So,
I've done this with you once
okay,
before.
so Tina, you worked in the finish room and you were doing all the touch-ups to get the guitars from the finish room into final assembly, right?
Yes.
And how many guitars did you have your hands on before you ever worked for private stock?
Oh, wow. Thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah, thousands.
Maybe 10 to 10,000.
Yeah. Easy.
Okay, and how many guitars has private stock made at this point, Paul?
We're in
We're-
8,000s, into the 8,000s.
We're almost at 9,000s.
9,000 private stocks.
Yes.
Boy, I never thought that was going to happen.
I never thought that I could. When I sit back and think about it, I'm like, wow, we together have written up over 8,000 guitars.
Okay, and what's wrong with that? Nothing.
Nothing.
And, hang on a minute. And how back order are you now?
If you order a guitar today, it'll come out somewhere around the first quarter of 2021. Yeah.
So one of the things that Pitbull has to do is they have to come and order guitars a year and a quarter ahead of time in
Yeah.
order to be able to have them, which they've been doing. You guys got lots of private stocks on order, right?
They were just They were just there like a couple weeks ago and placed their 2021 orders.
We're explaining to everybody that you have to have guitars on order a year ahead of time, otherwise you're not going to have them in stock, and that you've been traveling to do that, which I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, we still wear, 3 Wood Library runs in the queue, so we're waiting on Wood Library runs from, what was it? Yeah, the
All right,
first.
so what he's saying for
Early
Facebook Live is they have
2019.
3 runs waiting, and there's a bunch of private stocks waiting, but you're ahead of it enough that they keep coming, right?
Yeah.
The only way to.
That's the only way to do it.
Yep.
Well, see, that's a very mature way to go about it, right? That they're looking that far forward. I like this business. I think it's beautifully run. Good job. You and your crew should be very congratulated. Everybody give Tina and Paul a big hand, please. How old are you, son? You.
9.
And you're here because you love guitar? Okay, would you like to come play my guitar?
I do not want to be responsible for
Wow! What he said was he didn't want to be responsible for it. I can make another one if you ding it. It's okay. Okay, time out. That's a very mature comment for a 9-year-old. Well said. If you're willing to risk it after we're done this clinic, you're not going to drop it. It'll be all right. I'm inviting you to do that, okay? Who's his dad? Well done, Pops. He loves guitar?
He does, yeah.
So you play or?
I play, and he's just started. We started messing around. He's got like a little 3/4 scaling guitar that we're working with.
You should get him a real full-size one.
He's allowed to play mine whenever he wants. Oh, I was gonna say he's allowed to play my full-size ones whenever he wants, but when he gets really into it, then he can get a full-size one.
So when you're at work, you know he's pulling it out of the case, right?
Taking it off the wall, yeah.
That's good. Well done. All right, so one last question, and then we're going to end. Yes, sir. So we have a mic.
Hi. This is kind of more personal question. Like, what motivates you to start to build guitars? What makes you say, okay, I'm gonna start this business and I'm gonna make some of the best guitars in the world? Because
I got the question.
Okay.
I'm going to answer it 2 ways. There's 2 kinds of people that want to have an impact on the world or not want to have an impact. The first person has all this to offer the world and they go kicking and screaming. They don't want to do it. And there are other people that want to have an impact on the world, and everybody says, no, you will have no impact. And they go, no, please, I have something to offer. I have something to offer. I was in the second group. I was the one screaming, I've got something to offer, and nobody wanted anything to do with it. Nothing. And so for me, it was painful. I thought I had something to offer, and the world was going, no, we don't have anything to offer. You don't have anything to offer, except if I walked in a music store and I played guitar, everybody would run. If I put a case on the counter and opened it of something I made, it drew a crowd. And I had to pay attention to that, all right? There's a book that I live by. I'm going to really answer your question, okay? And it's the old hippie Bible. It was called The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda. And in the book, it says, I will travel the roads, all the roads with heart, and I will travel them breathlessly, all right? And so I thought this comment that I saw on a poster was really cool, so I bought the book, and I read the whole thing, and I thought Carlos Castaneda was an idiot. And I thought that the old man, the old Yaqui Indian, was a genius. And I highlighted every single thing that the Yaqui Indian wrote and crossed off everything that Carlos said. Because what the Yaqui Indian was saying was thousands and thousands of years of collective knowledge. And he talked about trying to be, in his way, a man of knowledge, someone who was always trying to learn. And in that book, he says you will face 4 enemies. The first enemy we all know, it's a vicious enemy, it's called fear. And fear would just take your legs out from underneath you, right? And when you finally beat fear, you face the second enemy. That's clarity, where you see clearer than the people around you. And it has an arrogance to it, and it's its own nasty enemy. And then you're done fighting clarity, you fight the third enemy, which is a very odd enemy. It's power. And then when you finish fighting that one, you'll face the worst of all, old age, which tries to suck you into a couch and get you to not move. And I'm not going to let that fourth one get me. So in my world right now, I'm not as frightened as I was as a young man. I'm fighting the second enemy. I'm not even into the third one yet. I'm fighting the second one. And very often in this meeting that we're having, I see clearly what's going on. And I'm trying very hard to empty my cup and be as humble as I possibly can in that fight. I haven't experienced real power like Trump or a lot of these other people experienced. I don't experience that. But I know the old man who wants to get sucked into the couch is coming. And he basically says, you can't beat the fourth enemy. You can only fight him. You will never beat him. So for me, it's a combination of the young man who wanted to have an impact, who had good ideas about what I could do with guitars, and nobody wanted any part of it. And there was a meeting in my shop in which all the people who wanted to help me came, and they said, well, you can't play music anymore, Paul, it's over. And I cried because I love playing music. They said, if you're going to start a company, you're going to have to give it everything you possibly have. And the next week, I called all my friends, and I said, okay, I'm going to take a shot at it. I need every penny in your bank accounts. And they all gave me every dime they had, and I returned the money. Now, that was a powerful thing that happened. I called all of them and I said, I'm going to take a shot. It's time to take a try. And for whatever reason, and Paul Miles and Tina will testify, and Jim will testify to this, it's fun to be a part of taking nothing and turning it into something. And, Paul Miles has an art degree. He didn't know that he was going to use his art degree to change the way colors were in our industry. He didn't understand that. A lot of the things that have happened to us, we've not really understood our impact over time. Although I did know when we started that when I started making guitars, Fender guitars had so much polyester on them you couldn't even find the frets. The necks weren't straight anymore. They weren't playing in tune. They weren't staying in tune. They weren't level. Things were bad. And I knew that we could bring that back to our industry. I had no idea the following story would happen. We were in a room with all these studio guitar players in Nashville, and they said, now, Paul, if we don't play your guitars, we get fired. And I went, what? He said, they're toning every syllable of every vocal, and if the guitar's not in tune with the vocal at the end, they erase our tracks and we get fired. I have to play a PRS on the track because your guitars are playing in tune. Now, I knew they were playing in tune, but I had no idea that it was going to have that kind of impact. And that all started with a guitar player coming into my repair shop saying, when I'm playing with the keyboard player down low, I'm not playing in tune with him. I said, you're out of your mind. I started checking down low with a strobe tuner, and all the notes in the first 2 or 3 frets were playing sharp, and I had to move the nut around, which we don't talk about. But getting the frets in the right place and getting the bridge in the right place and getting the nut in the right place has a huge impact on whether guitars play in tune or not. So I didn't understand about that kind of impact. But I did know that maybe we had something to offer, right? And I studied neck shapes, and I've studied all these old guitars and all this other stuff. But in the end, I'm just trying to do that thing that the old man in the book was talking about, which is try to follow the roads that are presented to us with as much heart and as possible. I don't really have any regrets. I feel like it's just a constant learning thing that goes on. I may have 1 or 2, but we needed some alcohol to discuss those. And but that said, that's an honest answer to your question. Now, that's whether you want to be a guitar maker or whatever you want to do in your life, it's the same game for you as it is for me. And you know something? It's ugly. you make a mess. It's like throwing up a pot pie. It's a mess. You got to get the carrots together, you get the peas together, and the bread and the chicken. It's just when you throw up, it's bad. And that's the way life is. It's like raising kids. It's like nailing jello to a tree. It doesn't work real well. Any parent will tell you that. My daughter went and au paired for my sister's kids in Tucson. And she came back. She said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "If we were like that when we were little, I am so sorry." But I love raising kids. I enjoy that part. I enjoy being a part of other people's lives. I enjoy that part. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
It's a powerful question, actually. Where do you live?
Tijuana.
You live in Tijuana. And
Yeah.
you drove up here just for this?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You did too? Yeah. All right, good. So all five of you came in the same car?
No.
You came in separate cars?
Yeah.
But you're all friends? So this is the Tijuana contingent here?
Yeah.
It looks like it.
It looks like it. There you go. So, from the bottom of my heart, from everybody at Pitbull, by the way, Bobby, raise your hand. This is Bobby Serrato. He's our rep here in this territory and has had a huge impact on what's going on here. And I think we're lucky to have him. You used to work for a company. Time out. No, really, our reps have industry experience, and we're lucky to have them. We've got people from a lot of other companies that have come to work for us, and we're very proud to work with all these people that know what they're doing. I don't want to have a rep that doesn't understand guitars. I want to have somebody that comes here that understands what the store's going through, what you're going through, can help you with your problems that they can call, that's like the hub in the middle of a wheel that can do the job. And that's why we tracked him down to see if he'd come to work with us, right? And quite frankly, all these other companies are my heroes in a way because they started a business that I was in diapers in. You know, in 1956 when I was born, this thing was starting to rock and roll, literally, right? Yeah. So, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it. Everybody at Pitbull, great job. Thank you for having me. One last question. Did anybody bring guitars they want to sign? Okay. Can we set up a place? But give me 5 minutes. Please give me 5 minutes. Where are you going to do it?
Right here.
All right, we'll do it here. All right, fine. So we're going to remove the Tijuana contingent, and we're going to do it there. Everybody, from the bottom of my heart, from everybody at PRS, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.